EMTT's blood on the pavement isn't just another headline. It's the South Side's worst nightmare come alive. One second he was standing tall, the next he was down, bleeding out while Reggie vanished into the shadows he knows so well. Now, as we stare down the barrel of the Chi Season 7, Episode 9, every heartbeat feels like a countdown. To revenge? To chaos? Maybe to something even darker. The last time this neighborhood felt a tremor like this, old feuds turned into fresh graves, and those scars never really healed. This time, though, it's bigger. EMTT isn't just another name on the block. He's the heart of this story, the piece holding broken families, crooked deals, and shaky truces together. If that piece falls, the whole table flips. Word's already spreading faster than sirens. Knox got that look in his eye, the one that says rules don't apply when blood's on the line. He's always balanced his loyalty with logic, but loyalty just got shot in broad daylight. If EMTT pulls through, Knox got to decide, keep playing chess or flip the board. And what about Victor? He's been walking a tightrope, trying to be the man Tiffany needs while ignoring the storm brewing around him. But you can't outrun bullets, you can't kiss your way out of a war zone. Their stolen moment in Episode 8 was sweet, almost too sweet, like a calm before the hurricane tears the roof off. Tiffany's been craving peace, but EMTT's fate may drag her back into the fire she thought she'd escaped. And Reggie just broke the one rule everyone still respected. Don't bring the house down on your own family. He's not new to violence, but this was different. This wasn't business. This was a statement, a warning, maybe even a suicide note if the wrong people catch up to him first. Southside Chicago isn't kind to traitors, and it never forgets who pulled the trigger. He might think he's got an escape plan tucked in his back pocket, but the streets have longer arms than he does. He's cunning, sure, but is he really ready for what's about to hit him when the block wants blood for blood? Meanwhile, deep in the chaos sits Jada, staring at the space her son might never fill again. How does a mother carry that weight, fighting her own battles inside her body while the world outside tries to snatch what's left of her heart? Darnell's grief might look quieter, but quiet doesn't mean safe. If EMTT doesn't make it, the ripples will touch every corner of this story. Every fragile relationship, every whispered promise of peace that always seemed too good to be true. So, here we are. Sirens in the distance, shadows moving closer, and a single question echoing through every streetlight and alleyway. If EMTT dies, who's ready to kill for him? If the South Side was a powder keg before, Reggie's bullet just lit the fuse nobody can snuff out. Now the whispers aren't just whispers anymore. They're plans, threats, promises spoken in low voices in back rooms and on cracked sidewalks where secrets never stay buried for long. EMTT lying in a hospital bed, clinging to whatever's left of his fight, has turned every corner boy, every old head, every mother with a son on these streets into a soldier waiting for order. Some say Knox the one to watch. He's always been the quiet storm, the man you don't see coming until it's too late. If he decides to step outside the lines this time, Reggie won't have a place to hide, not even in the dark places he thinks belong to him. And then there's Victor, caught in that dangerous place between who he wants to be and who he might have to become. That kiss with Tiffany wasn't just a spark. It was a promise he'd be better, softer, safer. But safe is gone now. Love doesn't stand a chance when bullets are flying, and revenge is all anyone can taste. Tiffany wanted stability. Now she's standing on fault lines. How do you build a future with a man whose loyalty might drag him into a blood feud? Maybe she pulls him back from the edge. Maybe she watches him jump and just prays he comes home. Meanwhile, Reggie isn't sitting still. He knows the walls are closing in. He's got his ears open, his eyes everywhere, old contacts, old favors, new hiding spots. But no one stays hidden forever when every phone buzzes with the same news. EMTT's blood is a debt that has to be paid. Reggie thrives in chaos, but this isn't the chaos he controls. It's the kind that chews you up and spits you out with nothing but regrets for company. He might think he can skip town, slip through cracks, maybe even play the hero in his own twisted mind, but every streetlight's an eye, every whisper's a map, every corner could be his last stand. And still, while the streets boil, inside that hospital room, it's heartbreak and hope waging their own war. Jada sits there, every beep of the machine louder than her own heartbeat, wondering how to pray for a miracle when so many have already been stolen from her. Darnell stands guard at the door, silent, staring down the ghost of a future where his boy doesn't come home. The community watches too, because if EMTT goes, everything goes. The fragile trust that's kept families from tearing each other apart? Gone. The silent promises between men like Nock and Victor to keep the peace for the kids coming up behind them? Shattered. So while Reggie runs and Nock plots and Victor wrestles with what comes next, one truth hangs heavy over the South Side like a storm cloud with no mercy in it. What happens if EMTT never opens his eyes again? If there's one thing the South Side knows better than hope, it's survival. Raw, relentless survival that doesn't care about fair or right or who deserves a break. EMTT's fight for his life is no longer just about him. It's about every broken promise these streets have ever made and every second chance they've snatched away just as fast. In that sterile hospital hallway, the chairs are full of people waiting for news, but no one really wants to hear it because hope is too heavy to carry when all you've ever known is loss. Nock's not waiting. He's moving like a ghost through alleys and back doors, talking to faces half hidden in the glow of streetlights, piecing together every lie Reggie's told since the day he swaggered back into town. Nock remembers when this neighborhood used to hum with the sound of kids playing ball, not mothers crying into their palms behind closed blinds. EMTT was supposed to be the one to keep the balance, to hold the old grudges back just enough for new dreams to grow. Nock feels that old fire under his skin, the one he buried for the sake of peace. But peace is dead, and in its place there's just him, Reggie, and the promise of a reckoning, so loud it'll echo off the bricks for years. Victor's caught in the same storm, but the way he moves is different. He's still trying to fix what he can fix, to keep the wrong people from turning this into something bigger than one bullet and one boy. He knows he can't stop Nock if he wants blood, but maybe he can steer him, slow him down just enough to think about the aftershocks. Because Victor's tasted chaos before. He's buried enough friends to know you don't always win when you draw first. He wants to be the man Tiffany believes he can be, the man EMT trusted him to be, but sometimes the streets make you choose between being good and being alive. And then there's Tiffany, stuck in that space between wanting to run far away and knowing she can't turn her back when the people she loves are tied to the fire. She tries to stay close to Victor, tries to hold him together when he starts to fray at the edges, but deep down she knows what's coming. Love doesn't stand a chance in a war zone, but she'll keep trying anyway, whispering promises into the dark while the city outside howls for payback. Reggie, for his part, is still playing every angle. He's got eyes in places nobody expects, favors called in from people who owe him more than they'd ever admit. He's slipping through basements and safe houses, never stopping long enough to get caught, always 2 steps ahead of the people hunting him. He tells himself he did what he had to do, that EMTT had it coming, that the block needed a reminder of who really pulls the strings when the lights go out. But late at night, when the adrenaline fades and the streets grow quiet, even Reggie can't silence the whisper that maybe he went too far this time. Maybe he broke the code that kept him untouchable. Maybe this is the one mess he can't swagger or lie his way out of. And the streets? They're restless. Old beefs that lay buried are crawling back to the surface. Corner kids with nothing to lose start talking big, dreaming of their shot at glory by taking Reggie down themselves. Every barbershop, every stoop, every back porch buzzes with the same question. What happens if Reggie's still breathing when the sun comes up tomorrow? Does he stay a ghost slipping through the cracks? Or does someone, maybe Nock, maybe Victor, maybe some kid no one sees coming, finally put him in the ground for good? Meanwhile, inside the hospital, EMTT's fight is turning into legend before he even opens his eyes. Kids who grew up watching him keep the peace now stand guard like soldiers outside the building, sending a message to the whole South Side. This isn't over. EMTT's life or death is everyone's business now. The nurses whisper that he's strong, that maybe he'll make it. But they don't know the streets like we do. Here, a heartbeat can change everything. And sometimes the worst wounds aren't the ones you can stitch up under bright lights and cold steel. Jada sits by his side, her hands wrapped around his just like she did when he was a boy with scraped knees instead of bullet wounds. She talks to him like he can hear her, telling him stories about better days, about second chances, about a future that doesn't end under hospital lights and plastic tubes. Darnell stands in the doorway, back straight, eyes hard, fighting the grief in his throat with anger in his chest. He's seen too many sons die on these streets. He won't let this one go without a fight, even if it means he has to pick up pieces of himself he swore he'd buried years ago. Outside, the city holds its breath. Every passing hour without news feels like a test. Will Knock pull the trigger before the doctor gives an answer? Will Victor lose himself trying to hold the line? Will Reggie disappear forever or show up on some blurry security camera grinning like the devil he swears he isn't? The clock's ticking, the fuse is burning, and nobody's really ready for the explosion that's about to hit when the truth finally walks through that hospital door. And when it does, when someone finally whispers that word, alive or gone, what happens next might just burn the South Side to the ground. Because when blood calls for blood, who's strong enough to stop the whole city from answering? By now, the South Side doesn't even pretend to sleep. The hum of streetlights mixes with quiet footsteps and muffled arguments behind half-shut doors. It's like the whole neighborhood stuck between holding its breath and screaming. Some people pray, some plan, some polish old grudges like bullets waiting for a gun. And right at the center of it all is a hospital room where the beep of a machine is the only proof that maybe, just maybe, hope hasn't flatlined yet. Knock moves through it all like a shadow that grew teeth. He's not the loudest man in the room. He never has been. But when Knock stands up, people sit down. They listen. Because they know Knock didn't survive this long by making noise. He survived by making sure nobody saw him coming until it was too late. Now the calm is gone. He's been quiet too long, and with every update that EMTT's still unconscious, that he might not make it through the night, Knock's patience cracks like old pavement under heavy boots. He's not the only one feeling that break. Victor's still playing the middle, trying to keep hands off triggers and hearts from hardening past the point of no return. He's checking in on Jada, pulling Tiffany close when the tears push through the cracks she tries to patch with fake smiles and half-finished sentences. But under all that softness is a man who knows he can't protect everybody. He can barely protect himself. If Knock moves, Victor's next move matters more than anything he's ever done. Does he back him up, stand in his way, or do something worse? Stand by and do nothing. Tiffany, though, is the wild card nobody's reading right. She's always been stronger than she looked, tougher than people believed. She knows Reggie's ghost won't just vanish. It'll crawl into her walls, poison everything she's building if she doesn't slam the door shut herself. The South Side never gave her anything she didn't fight for, and she's tired of watching good men bleed for other people's sins. If Victor can't choose between peace and war, maybe she'll make the choice for him. But the question tearing her apart is simple. Can you save a man from himself without losing your own soul in the process? Meanwhile, Reggie's got eyes everywhere, or so he thinks. He's crashing on threadbare couches and slipping out of back doors before the sun gets brave enough to rise. Every time he checks over his shoulder, he half expects to see Knock's silhouette waiting in the dark. Part of him loves it. The thrill, the chaos, the feeling that he's still the king of a jungle that's been trying to swallow him since he was old enough to swing fists. But the other part, the part he never says out loud, knows he's not untouchable anymore. He crossed a line that can't be uncrossed, and for the first time in a long time, the streets aren't whispering about him with fear. They're whispering about him with hunger. He's prey now, not predator, and he knows it. Inside the hospital, the tension is its own kind of violence. Jada won't move. Darnell paces. The nurses have stopped meeting their eyes. It's like they all feel the weight pressing down on that room, a weight built on years of dreams, stacked too high on a man who was never supposed to fall. Every beep of that machine is a coin flip. Every doctor who walks in is either death in a white coat or a lifeline they don't dare trust until they hear the words for themselves. He's going to make it. Or worse, he's gone. Outside, the streets keep score. Word drifts through barbershops, liquor stores, half-lit bus stops, where old men nod their heads and young ones sharpen their reasons for pulling the next trigger. Some say if EMTT dies, the streets will drown in blood and regret. A cycle so old, it's got its own heartbeat. Others say it's already too late to stop what's coming, that the bullet Reggie fired wasn't just meant for EMTT, but for every fragile dream still clinging to these cracked sidewalks and sagging porches. Knock sits in an old car parked a block away from the hospital. He watches the front door like he expects Reggie to stroll up, cocky and laughing, but he knows Reggie's smarter than that. Knock's not here for Reggie. He's here for the moment the news drops. He's here to decide what kind of man he really is when it does. Does he spill more blood to balance the scales? Or does he hold the line for a piece that's already dead? Victor sits across town in a borrowed apartment, staring at the wall like it's got answers. Tiffany's asleep on the couch, her arm draped over her eyes, hiding tears she thinks he didn't see. He wants to believe he can fix this, that he can talk knock down, that he can find Reggie first, make him pay without turning the block into a battlefield. But deep down, even Victor knows there's no version of this that ends clean. There's just the version that hurts less. Or maybe the version that hurts fast, so they can bury it before it poisons them all for good? Jada's voice is raw from praying to a god she's not sure hears her anymore. She whispers stories into EMTT's ear. About when he was 7 and broke his arm jumping from the porch. About the way he always came home for dinner, even when he was running wild in streets too mean to forgive mistakes. She begs him to open his eyes, to come back to her, to remind these streets they don't get to write his ending. But the machines hum, and the clock ticks, and sometimes all the love in the world can't pull a soul back from the edge. And so the city waits. The South Side breathes in shallow gasps. Reggie runs, Knock plots. Victor wrestles with choices too heavy to carry alone. Tiffany drifts between hope and fury. Jada holds her boy's hand like it's a lifeline, because for her, it is. When that hospital door finally opens and a doctor clears his throat, whether he says he's going to make it or I'm so sorry, this story shifts forever. If EMTT lives, the block will stand up, wounded but not broken, maybe ready to forgive but never forget. If EMT dies, the streets will burn with a rage that won't end until the last grudge is buried in fresh dirt under an unmarked headstone. Because out here, nothing dies quietly. Not hope, not hate, not a name like EMCT that means more to the South Side than 100 city councils or 10,000 empty promises. He's more than a man now. He's the last promise they're all trying so hard to keep alive. So as the sun creeps up, and the whispers turn into plans, and the plans turn into footsteps, only one question keeps ringing out like a siren nobody can silence. When the blood settles and the guns go quiet, who'll be left standing to bury the cost of keeping the South Side breathing? Thank you.